In our headlines on this Monday afternoon, March 25th, here in South Korea, President Yoon Suk-yeol calls on relevant government authorities for flexibility in handling license suspensions of protesting junior doctors following talks between the ruling party and the medical arena this past weekend. Meanwhile, over in Russia, 4 gunmen are charged with terrorism following deadly violence Friday night at a concert venue that has killed well over 100 people there. And on the silver screen here, Korean film Exuma becomes this year's first local production to hit over 10 million ticket sales as moviegoers rave about its plot and cast. Dialogue is in the cards between government officials and medical practitioners as the top office calls for flexibility in dealing with license suspensions facing junior doctors engaged in the walkout over plans to expand school admissions quota. Our Kim Jong-sil has the latest.
Health Minister Cho Kyu-hong described on Monday the government's efforts to hold talks with the doctors.
The government has immediately begun working towards establishing discussions with the medical community and will come up with a day for both sides to sit down for talks as soon as possible.
Minister Cho added the government will come up with flexible measures to deal with healthcare absences caused by the walkouts and license suspensions of junior doctors who left the medical field. But he made it clear once again that the government's goal remains intact.
We will certainly complete the goal of the expanding medical school admissions for the first time in 27 years. We ask for your support until the end.
The health minister's announcement came as President Yoon Suk-yeol over the weekend ordered to flexibly handle the suspension of doctors taking part in the walkout. The president also ordered Prime Minister Han Duk-soo to create a constructive council to push for dialogue with the medical professionals. There are mixed reactions from the medical community. The emergency committee of the country's top medical school, Seoul National University College of Medicine, released a statement saying it's a positive sign that the government has suggested creating a council for constructive discussion and asked for further review of the original plan to increase student numbers. But other professors, such as those from Korea University Medicine, submitted collective resignations on Monday, opposing to the government plan to increase medical school student enrollment by 2,000 next year. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has pledged to support infrastructure projects for a chip cluster in Yongin City, Gyeonggi-do Province. The pledge was made during the 23rd policy briefing open to the public earlier on this Monday. Returning to Yongin, where he hosted his first session, President Yoon shared plans for new transport and residential infrastructure in line with the city's growing population. The blueprint includes a semiconductor expressway stretching across the cities of Yongin, Hwaseong and Ansong. A new semiconductor Meister High School will also open in Yongin. Moreover, to put these plans into practice, the government will push for legal support to grant such cities more decision-making authority to advance their respective development agendas. Meanwhile, prospects of a summit between the leaders of Japan and North Korea are being raised yet again. According to the Korean Central News Agency on this Monday, Kim Yo-jong, the sister of the regime's leader, claimed Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has relayed hopes for a meeting with Kim Jong-un in the near future. Details were not shared, but she added that Japan should seek to leave the controversial issue of past abductions of Japanese nationals away from the proposed summit agenda. Over in Russia, appalling acts of brutal violence has led to the tragic loss of more than 130 lives at a concert venue there, and 4 of the alleged assailants have been formally charged with terrorism. Our Lee Sing-jae reports.
4 gunmen appeared before a Russian court on Sunday, charged over the terrorist attack on the Crocus City Concert Hall in Moscow Friday night that left at least 137 dead. According to Russia's TASS news agency, all 4 gunmen were identified as citizens of Tajikistan and were remanded in custody for 2 months. The court released photos of the suspects, with one appearing to have a black eye, while another was seen in a wheelchair. The 4 gunmen are facing charges of a terror attack committed by a group of individuals, resulting in a person's death. Aside from the 4 individuals suspected of carrying out Friday's terror attack, 7 others have also been arrested for their possible involvement. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, which it said was against Christians. And after Russian President Vladimir Putin hinted at possible involvement by Ukraine on Saturday, the terror group released graphic body cam footage of the attackers on social media channels.
Regarding the investigation of this crime and results of operational search actions, I can now say the following. All 4 of the actual performers of the act of terror, all those who shot and killed people, were found and detained. They tried to hide and were moving in the direction of Ukraine. There, according to the preliminary data, they had a crossing of the border prepared from the Ukrainian side.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky slammed Putin and others in Moscow for linking the terror attacks to Kyiv, saying that the Russian leader was more concerned over blaming the attack on Ukraine rather than reassuring his own citizens. Meanwhile, Russia observed a national day of mourning on Sunday for the victims who died in the attacks. Friday's attack is now the deadliest IS-claimed terror attack on European soil and the deadliest attack by any group in Russia since the 2004 Beslan siege. South Korea's foreign ministry on Saturday offered condolences to the victims and their families. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Also on the international front, Israel has reportedly accepted a U.S. proposal on the size of a new hostage prisoner exchange with Hamas. Our Yongin has details.
Israel on Sunday agreed to a U.S. proposed prisoner hostage exchange deal and is waiting for a response from Hamas, which could take 1 to 3 days. If Hamas agrees to the proposal, it means Israel would release around 700 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for 40 Israeli hostages. According to CNN, 100 of the 700 Palestinians to be exchanged are currently serving life sentences for killing Israeli nationals. The proposal was put forward by U.S. Central Intelligence Agency Director William Burns during a visit to Qatar, where he helped Qatari and Egyptian officials mediate talks between Hamas and Israel. The director of Israel's Mossad intelligence agency, David Barnea, has also been in Doha twice in the past week for the indirect negotiations. Earlier this month, Israel described Hamas's proposal of releasing 700 to 1,000 Palestinian prisoners as ridiculous and absurd. But Israeli state broadcaster Khan News reported that Israel is now ready to make significant compromises to have abductees return home. Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council on Friday failed to pass a resolution proposed by the U.S. that called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza as a part of a hostage deal. Despite 11 of the 15 council members voting in favor of the resolution, Russia and China exercised their veto powers. Russia's ambassador to the UN spoke before the vote, where he called on members to go against the resolution, calling it exceedingly politicized, adding that it contains measures that would allow Israel to launch a military operation in Rafah. But the U.S. ambassador to the UN said that Russia and China vetoed the resolution for cynical and petty reasons, saying that Russia was putting politics over progress.
But once again, Russia put politics over progress. Russia, who has carried out an unprovoked war on its neighbor, has the audacity and the hypocrisy to throw stones when it lives in a glass house itself. So let's be honest, for all the fiery rhetoric, we all know that Russia and China are not doing anything diplomatically to advance a lasting peace or to meaningfully contribute to the humanitarian response effort.
She added that the two countries opposed the resolution simply because it was penned by the U.S. and criticized both countries for not condemning Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. Yongin, Arirang News.
On the silver screen, a Korean thriller has become this year's first local production to hit 10 million ticket sales. Our Kim Yo-jong has more.
The first Korean movie to surpass 10 million admissions at theaters this year. Occult thriller Exuma reached the milestone on Sunday morning, just 32 days after its release on February 22nd. The release of a big competitor, the Hollywood blockbuster Doom Part 2, around a week after Exuma hit the cinemas, made people wonder if it could reach the 10 million mark at all. But there was nothing to worry about, as the horror thriller kept the top spot at the local box office ever since its premiere.
The reason for the movie's existence is you, movie watchers. You are heroes and heroines of our Exuma. Thank you so much.
Exuma, starring veteran actors Choi Min-sik and Kim Go-eun as two shamans who join forces to investigate mysterious occurrences affecting a wealthy family in the U.S., became the 32nd movie to attract more than 10 million moviegoers in Korea, and the 5th one since COVID-19, following the roundup Avatar: The Way of Water, the roundup No Way Out, and 12/12 The Day. In terms of Korean movies, it is the 23rd one to exceed the 10 million mark in ticket sales. It's all the more meaningful for director Jang Jae-hyun, as this is the first movie in the genre to reach the milestone. He has been pioneering the so-called Korean occult genre with his previous films The Priest and Savaha the Sixth Finger. The timing of the release is also worth mentioning. This flick was unveiled in the so-called off-season in February, and among all the movies that have reached the 10 million mark at the local box office, Taegukgi Brotherhood of War was the only other to have hit the theaters in the same month. Given that another 10 million hit film 12/12 The Day was also released off-season in November, watchers are saying the success of movies is no longer bound to their release schedules. With the latest installment of South Korea's mega-hit crime-action franchise, The Roundup, to be released in late April, there is hope for a full recovery in the Korean film industry this year. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Over in Jeju Island, a former bunker for communication has been transformed into a unique venue for art to allow for a truly immersive experience. Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin has a glimpse.
At the east end of South Korea's Jeju Island is a village called Gosong. Deep inside the village is this single-story building covered in vines. What's inside might blow your mind. So here, the bunker Dumir Tedu was once a secret telecommunication bunker that managed Korea's submarine cable network in the 1980s. Now, after being closed for more than 20 years, it reopened as a digital art hall in 2018. The bunker Dumir Tedu is the first immersive media art space to open in the country. And for its 5th exhibit, it's bringing the works of the late Russian-French artist Marc Chagall back to life.
Chagall spent his final days in St. Paul de Vence by the Mediterranean Sea. We thought there was this connection between St. Paul de Vence's blue Mediterranean and its landscape with Tedu. So we thought people could better appreciate Chagall's artworks here.
As soon as you step in, visitors are drawn into the world of Chagall, surrounded by a cocoon of sound and darkness. Chagall Paris, New York traces the artist's artistic journey to and from the two cities. Over 70 of his masterpieces have been recreated using 3D sound, laser video projectors, and lighting. The exhibition's music, ranging from classic, jazz, and klezmer, is what Chagall enjoyed listening to while drawing. But this is not all that the bunker offers. For the first time since opening, Bunker Dumir Tedu is showcasing the works of a Korean artist, Lee Wal-jong. Known as the artist of Tedu, Lee is a veteran artist who gained recognition through his efforts to modernize traditional Korean art, such as using acrylic paint on Korean paper hanji, wood carving, and installations.
After moving from Seoul to Tedu in 1990, I began asking myself how I could be happier. I realized that happiness stems from within. The works shown in this exhibition have very vivid colors and focus on embracing positivity and finding joy in life's simple pleasures.
This fusion of international and local artistry awaits in Tedu, inviting visitors on a journey through time and culture. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, Jeju.
Meanwhile, as part of efforts to protect and promote our intangible cultural practices, special arts and craft classes are being offered to members of the public by certified experts. Our Moon Hye-ryun covers this campaign.
윗부분에서 아래서 위로 이렇게 집어넣어요. 꽃잎처럼. 단단하게 균형이 잡힌 거, 미연이 다 비슷비슷해야 동글동글하게 찌그러지지 않은 연봉이 되겠죠.
The lotus knot is one of the most basic knots in traditional Korean decorative knotting, known as medupjang. Though it's a basic knot, it is not easy. In order to get the shape, participants need individual help.
Close enough is not enough. The focus is on learning accurate movements in the hand, which with a lot of practice becomes each crafter's own.
Classes are being held for 14 kinds of traditional crafts, including decorative knotting, woodcraft, metal craft, and ornamental painting. Scheduled to be held until the end of the calendar year, these classes are open for the general public with 3 levels: beginner, research, and professional. But with huge popularity, some of the courses fill up on the day that registration opens.
I wanted to be able to make it myself. I wanted to make something traditional that suits my style.
What is most appealing about these courses is that the crafts are being taught by transferees of national intangible cultural heritages. These crafts professionals pass on traditional cultural craft skills that are challenging, which keeps the apprentices inspired.
I'm going up to the research level. I get a lot of ideas. I get these ideas from what is traditional and incorporate modern craft elements into the work.
Exhibitions of the students' graduation works display their outstanding artistic skills and talent. As enthusiasm increases for traditional culture, more people are becoming interested in learning traditional crafts. In fact, there is a significant shortage of institutions that hold these classes compared to demand for them, where there are people that travel to Seoul from different regions across the country to take the classes. This means more support is needed from the government level to further expand the traditional cultural arts industry. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
And beyond Seoul, the colors of spring are in full bloom in the southern parts of Korea, and my colleague Choi Soo-young was there to bring us this report. To take a look.
Spring has begun in South Korea. Currently, the southern parts of the country are in full bloom with the various colors of spring. You can feel the spring breeze, particularly in the cities of Jeollanam-do province, located around the Samjin River, one of the 5 largest in South Korea. Particularly noteworthy are the villages in Gurye County, Jeollanam-do province. In these small villages, the bright yellow flowers of the cornelian cherry dogwood, also known as cornus flowers or sansuyu in Korean, are in full bloom. This area is home to many sansuyu villages, accounting for over 70% of Korea's sansuyu production. Due to climate change, despite the typical blooming season being in mid-March, sansuyu flowers have been blooming earlier than usual for about 3 to 4 years now. According to the Gurye County office, they bloomed about 1 week earlier than usual this year, starting March 9th. Although they bloomed earlier this year, the sansuyu, cornus flowers, last longer than other flowers like plum blossoms, so you can enjoy the yellow waves until early April. Due to the last cold snap, cherry blossoms were also supposed to bloom this week, but haven't done so yet. However, tourists from across the country come to enjoy the spring by admiring the flowers blooming along the riverside.
To be honest, I came to see the cherry blossoms, but not a single one had bloomed. So, I heard about the sansuyu flowers blooming and decided to come. They were so yellow and incredibly beautiful. I'll have fun with my family.
I came here last year, but even this year, the sansuyu village is still as beautiful as it was when I visited last year. It's still lovely.
It's only the beginning to feel the spring vibes within the blooming cornus sansuyu village. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News, Gurye.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. At a motorsport rally in Hungary on Sunday, 4 people were killed and at least 8 injured when a race car drifted off the road and crashed into spectators. Out of the injured, 2, including 1 child, are in hospital with life-threatening injuries. The crash took place during a race in northwest Hungary between the towns of Labatlan and Gov't. According to Hungary's National Ambulance Service, 4 rescue helicopters and 8 ambulances were dispatched to the scene, where the rally race was immediately halted after the crash. Rally Hungary, which is part of the FIA European Rally Championship, was first organized in 2018. Iconic landmarks around the world switched off their lights for an hour on Saturday night to mark Earth Hour, a campaign to raise environmental awareness. France's Eiffel Tower, Australia's iconic Sydney Opera House and Harbour Bridge, Japan's Tokyo Tower, Barcelona's Sagrada Familia Cathedral, and Rome's Colosseum were among the landmarks that went dark. Earth Hour is organized each year by the Worldwide Fund for Nature. It began in 2007 with the Lights Out event in Sydney, Australia. Around 200 Parisian waiters walked the streets of Paris on Sunday as the city revived its historic cafe waiters race. The waiters, donning white shirts and traditional aprons, carried a croissant, cup of coffee and glass of water for 2 kilometers around the streets of the French capital. Open to all waiters in Paris, the rules of the course de café are no running, nothing spilled or dropped, and that the tray is carried on one hand only. The winning waiter and waitress received medals and a night's stay at a fancy Parisian hotel. The race was first held in 1914 and continued until 2011, when the organizers failed to find sponsors. But with the sponsoring by Paris City Hall and Water Authority, it was revived this year. Kim Yo-jong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. After some very pleasant spring weather we had on the weekend in central regions, the weather is shifting again. Rain that started from the south coast is gradually spreading to the rest of the country as the day goes on and into Tuesday. And further south, we'll see heavier rainfall along with strong winds and thunderstorms. Meanwhile, mountainous regions in Gangwon-do could see up to 15 centimeters of snowfall. Seoul saw the mid-May warms yesterday, but today's rain should put the brakes on unseasonably warm temperatures, cooling down nearly 10 degrees lower than Sunday in the capital. But southern provinces should have similar to slightly higher afternoon highs today. Tedu gets up to 17 degrees, Seoul makes it to 14 degrees this afternoon. It will rain enough to need an umbrella today before it lets up tomorrow morning. Another band of rain is in the forecast at the end of the week, but it will get sunnier as we head towards the weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Right, and that ends our Monday afternoon newscast. Thank you for watching, and do stay tuned for our panel session.